Hi all, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to you all as per the place you are joining from. I am Rashmi Agrawal, a core member of Evaluation Community of India. Namaste from India to you all. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to this multi-stakeholder panel discussion on evaluation, COVID-19 and SDGs. This has been organized by Asia Pacific Evaluation Association in collaboration with ANZEA, Evaluation Community of India, Decade for Evaluation for Action, and Maori Evaluation Association. The topic is of high relevance today as the level of global progress towards SDGs is adversely affected by the onset of COVID-19. It calls for sustained action on the part of community of nations to accelerate the pace of development to reach the goals in the next 10 years, an extremely difficult task that would call for strategic shifts in policies and programs. Such decisions, to be effective, obviously need to be taken on the basis of solid evidence. This session will commence with a lead presentation of about 20-25 minutes, followed by a talk show by each of the panelists sharing their inputs on different aspects of the main theme. Then we will open the floor for questions and answers. Please write your comments and questions in the chat box, please. I would like to introduce the panelists today. Now, I am happy to say that Mr. Asela Kalugampitiya will make the lead presentation on the challenges in achieving SDGs in COVID-19 situation, and he will give the Asian experience and perspective. He is a Sri Lankan lawyer and the president of both Sri Lankan Evaluation Association and Asia Pacific Evaluation Association. He has experience in M&E field over 2 decades. During the period, he worked with several international organizations such as IOCE, International Development Law Organization, UN Women, UNICEF, UNFPA, ILO, and so on. He was instrumental in launching the Global Parliamentarian Forum for Evaluation and managing International Year of Evaluation 2015. He is Director, Center for Evaluation, University of Shri Jayawardhanpura, which runs a PG diploma course in monitoring and evaluation area. As the name of the panel reflects, it is a multi-stakeholder panel, and therefore we have panelists from various walks of life. Surabhi Seth from India worked as a young evaluator. She worked earlier with National Institution for Transforming India, known as NITI Aayog, and now has moved to Ministry of Commerce Trade Promotion Organization. Earlier, she worked with Barclays Bank and also with Ernst & Young. She is passionate about evidence-backed policy planning and programs. Fiona Cram has a PhD from the University of Otago in Social and Developmental Psychology. She has many portfolios, like she is with ANZEA, Maori Evaluation Association, EvalIndigenous New Zealand, etc. She has over 25 years of research and evaluation experience with Maori and Iwi tribal organizations and communities, as well as with government agencies, district health boards, and philanthropic organizations. Her work involves the use of mixed and multiple methods in the pursuit of decolonization, tribal sovereignty, and societal transformation. Auna works for the United Nations Population Fund as a M&E advisor for the Asia Pacific region. She has over 20 years of experience of working in the development field, mainly on gender issues. She has a master's in medical anthropology and a PhD in health and behavioral sciences. To present the legislator's perspective, we have with us a former member of Parliament of Sri Lanka, Mr. M. Thilakarajah, now a treasurer of the Sri Lanka Parliamentary Forum for Evaluation. He is a graduate from the University of Colombo in Faculty of Management and Finance. He represented the Sri Lankan Parliament from 2015 to 2020. While being a parliamentarian, he was holding several portfolios. He is dedicated to institutionalize the evaluation process in Sri Lanka and proposed to form a select committee on evaluation, and the committee has succeeded on its task. So you can see that the panel is very rich in its composition and ensures that we have the opportunity to listen to the perspectives of different groups of stakeholders. I now invite Mr. Asela to make the lead presentation. Thank you. Asela, please, over to you.
Thank you very much, Rashmi. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone, wherever you are from. And welcome to this panel. As Rashmi mentioned, this is organized by Asia Pacific Evaluation Association with many other partners. And I'm happy to be in this panel with all these distinguished panelists, as Rashmi mentioned. I have, this short presentation, and then definitely we will listen to other panelists and have a dialogue with the participants. Next slide, please. The session takeaway is today participants will learn about challenges and importance of partnering to promote evaluation in the Asia Pacific region. Of course, there are several challenges. We will go through what are the challenges, and also see how to partner to promote evaluation culture in the region. Next slide, please. And we are actually in the AEW theme, role of evaluation in providing strategic direction. I think it is very important that how we use evaluation or evaluative evidence for strategic directions or strategic decision making. So that's the theme we are covering through this panel. Next slide, please. This is the content. As I mentioned, we will talk about challenges, voluntary national reviews and evaluation. What is the importance of evaluation in VNRs? Ensure quality of evaluations, also professionalism of evaluations and evaluators, regional evaluation action plan, and how to partner. Next slide, please. When it comes to challenges for evaluation, there are several challenges. To name some of them, actually now we have to see how many countries have the legal framework for evaluation. Legal framework in the sense I meant whether there is a national evaluation policy, whether there is any law regarding evaluation or monitoring and evaluation, whether there are any government circulars issued if there is in absence of national evaluation policy or evaluation law. So that is one challenge in this region. Asia Pacific region, only few countries have legal framework, and the other challenge is to extend to what extent evaluations are conducted. Actually, whether evaluations are happening very often and as a plan by different ministries, departments, or whether it's not happening, only donors are conducting evaluations. That is what we have to see. Actually, when it comes to conducting evaluations, for the moment, our observation is not that many evaluations are conducted, especially as a plan, annual plan, or systematically. And who can do a good quality evaluation? Of course, I'm talking about capacity of evaluators. When it comes to finding an evaluator or evaluation consultant, many organizations face, how to find a good quality evaluator who can deliver a quality evaluation. And when it comes to now evaluation associations, we get requests that circulate some of the evaluation assignments. Circulate some of the evaluation assignments and help them to find an evaluator. But most of the time, it's difficult for organizations to find a good quality evaluator. So that gives a sense that there are not many evaluators with skills in conducting a quality evaluation. And the use of evaluations, after conducting the evaluation, the use part is also very important. and many countries face this issue whether the evaluations are used. And also as evaluators, we have to see what are the issues or challenges we have regarding use of evaluations. And one is that actually whether evaluation findings and recommendations are available in a manner that policymakers, especially parliamentarians, can use them. Especially whether brief evaluation reports are available for them to use that. And the other main challenge is what have VOPEs, Voluntary Organization for Professional Evaluation, done to promote evaluation. Whether VOPEs have done enough advocacy for to promote evaluations. So that is also one challenge we have. Next slide, please. I mentioned about voluntary national reviews at the content part. Voluntary national reviews are the progress reports that actually presented by governments voluntarily every year at the high-level political forum. This year it was, like this, a virtual political high-level political forum, and voluntary national reviews were presented virtually mainly. And it was revealed from the 2016, the first year of presenting voluntary national reviews, VNRs, that VNRs lack evaluative evidence globally, not only from this region. Globally, VNRs lack evaluative evidence. And in the first year, 2016, actually, only few countries had mentioned to monitoring and evaluation. That's the issue. And now we see that some countries, when they present VNRs, they include evaluation or mention monitoring and evaluation. And this year, actually, Finland and Nigeria presented their VNRs, and they conducted evaluations of, they evaluated SDGs before presenting VNRs. And of course, now it is really evident that evaluation is even important during emergencies such as COVID-19. What we learned from others, what we learned from other countries, and how do we incorporate them in our implementation of decisions, and how we succeed in emergencies like this. And strong national evaluation systems are critical. Of course, delivering SDGs as they demonstrate to countries what solutions work, and it can better to ensure no one is left behind. And this principle of no one is left behind is more important, and monitoring and evaluation is more important to ensure that no one left behind principle. Only few countries from Asia Pacific region at least mentioned evaluation in VNRs in last 5 years. And as I mentioned, only 2 countries so far conducted SDG evaluation and presented VNRs based on that, but none of the countries are from this region. Next slide, please. What we need to ensure quality of evaluations, actually policy framework for evaluation, or legal framework, I must say. In Sri Lanka, there is national evaluation policy endorsed by the government. And in this region, Nepal has evaluation embedded in the national constitution, actually. And Japan has National Evaluation Monitoring and Evaluation Act, National Evaluation Act, and Philippines has National Evaluation Policy endorsed by the government. But if you take these countries, it's not that many. Malaysia has, resource-based monitoring and evaluation system. So that's the situation in the region, but at the same time, it's important to have, a policy framework for evaluation, especially for the public sector. And when it comes to standards for evaluation, so it is needed, and it's a question, how many countries have standards set for their, country for evaluation and guidelines. The example I have is again Nepal. Nepal has very strong guidelines for monitoring and evaluation that is, published in 2013, and all the government institutions are, advised to use these guidelines. And also 2010, Nepal published RBM guidelines, resource-based monitoring and evaluation guidelines. So Nepal has very strong guidelines for evaluations, actually, monitoring and evaluation. And ensure use of evaluation, especially by policymakers, that is also very important. As I mentioned, to ensure that is the most important part. And parliamentarians say they don't have enough time for reading. They are the main policymakers. So how do we ensure that parliamentarians use evaluations or evaluative evidence? In South Africa, there's this policy 2551 or 1525. So the main evaluation report is 25 pages. The executive summary is 5 pages, and for policymakers is 1 page. So we cannot expect policymakers to read 200 pages or 100 pages of evaluation reports. Definitely, the evaluators have to, ensure that there is brief reports for policymakers, and also it is widely discussed that evaluators are not good communicators as well. We have to be very good communicators. We have to communicate our evaluation results and create awareness among evaluators and commissioners. That is also very important. Next slide. How do we ensure the professionalism? Increase academic courses. In Sri Lanka, we have postgraduate diploma in monitoring and evaluation, and define competencies for monitoring and evaluation for monitoring and evaluation professionals. That is now a big discussion worldwide, but there are some initiatives going on. And ethics and code of conduct for evaluators and commissioners. Again, Nepal has just published code of conduct for evaluators. Ethics, I think still, countries need to work on this, but many other countries except Nepal, I haven't seen code of conduct. So ethics and code of conduct for evaluators and evaluation commissioners are important. And improve technical capacity of evaluators. As I mentioned, it's difficult to find, good quality evaluators or evaluators who can produce good quality evaluations. So improve their technical capacity is important, and support young and emerging evaluators. Today we have Surabhi Seth, young and emerging evaluator from India, and there is young and emerging evaluators global network, EvalYouth, and also there is EvalYouth Asia network. There are some initiatives going on. Next slide, please. What VOPEs need? Actually, VOPEs can be strong advocates for all the areas I mentioned, and VOPEs also face some challenges. And what we see is actually VOPEs can have their annual plan to advocate for evaluation, and VOPEs need good leadership and good team to support VOPEs governance side. Have a good team of executive members and solid base of active members whether VOPEs have good evaluators, active members supporting the VOPE to advocate for evaluation, and strong working partners, whether VOPEs partner with other organizations, development partners, and strategic partnership with the government, parliament, and academia. This is also important that VOPEs work with the government and of course through the parliament. Now in Sri Lanka, the parliament had institutionalization of evaluation process within the parliament, and VOPEs and other stakeholders work with the parliament. And also, of course, academia. So VOPEs can work with the academia to promote academic courses, which is needed to improve the knowledge and technical knowledge of the evaluators. Next slide, please. To Asia Pacific Evaluation Association and its role, and we think that APEA can be the lead in promoting evaluation in the region, promoting professionalization of evaluation in the region. Actually, APEA will start a discussion about this, dialogue about this in the region, and take the lead in mobilization of stakeholders for an evaluation culture. So, of course, we want to work with all the stakeholders in the region, and strong advocate in collaboration with VOPEs for national evaluation systems. So APEA members are national VOPEs. We are working with national VOPEs to promote national evaluation systems in the countries in the region. Next slide, please. And APEA is a strong partner of the Decade of Evaluation for Action, Eval for Action campaign actually, to promote influential evaluations, and most of the national VOPEs and some other organizations, including private sector, are partners. Next slide, please. APEA is in the process of developing a regional evaluation action plan. There are 8 themes. Because of the time, I don't go into details, but it covers professionalization and inclusion of evaluation in VNRs, promoting national evaluation policies and systems, working with parliamentarians like that. And some of these panelists are also part of the team developing the evaluation action plan, Surabhi, Honorable Thilakarajah, and Rashmi. Next slide, please. This is the team actually developing the committee. We call it committee developing the regional action plan. Next slide, please. So, as I mentioned, there was a group, a committee from who are representatives from different stakeholders developed the plan. So our plan is to launch it in October 2020, and it will be a regional action plan, not belong to any particular organization. It is not APEA regional action plan or any other regional action plan. It is the evaluation action plan of the region, Asia Pacific region, and we want to partner with all the other stakeholders in the region to implement this successfully and have a strong evaluation culture in the region. Next slide, please. These are the regional and international partners. I apologize if we miss any partner here. We are working with at the moment. And we invite all the organizations, stakeholders in the region to partner with APEA and also Evaluatia to implement the regional action evaluation action plan and promote evaluation culture together with VOPEs, voluntary organizations for professional evaluation. And let's work together. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, of course, with the COVID-19 situation, and it is evident that evaluations are more important. Evaluation evidence is more important, and influential evaluations are important, and networking, sharing, strengthening institutions, and engaging policymakers are important. So again, my invitation is to work together in the region, VOPEs, parliamentarians, governments, development partners, and we work as a team to promote evaluation. And next slide, please. Thank you very much, and I invite you all to share any questions if you have, and we will take questions later on. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Asela, for a very informative presentation that will provoke insightful observations from the panelists now. I request each of the 4 panelists to briefly give their views on some of the important aspects on the presentation Asela made. And to ensure that different issues are covered, I will request each panelist to speak on a specific issue and also request the panelists to be brief in their observations. Each panelist will have 4 minutes to speak. So to begin with, I request Surabhi to speak, and her issue would be use of evaluative evidence to improve monitoring progress towards SDGs in India with COVID-19. Surabhi, please.
Very warm namaste from India to my fellow evaluation professionals, policymakers, leaders. My name is Surabhi Seth, and I have been an evaluator with the Government of India. I'd like to begin by thanking Asian Evaluation Week AEW 2020 organizers, the Asia Pacific Evaluation Association APEA, and its president, Mr. Asela, who is a strong advocate, a strong voice for encouraging participation of YEEs and Eval Youth. And he very warmly extended me the opportunity to be part of today's panel with such distinguished and accomplished members. My congratulations to him as the lead presenter today for the very relevant presentation. We meet virtually today, some of us not even in the same time zones, in unprecedented circumstances, and sadly, at a time when the global community is seized with optimizing the balance between lives and livelihoods. COVID-19 pandemic has put us all, over 200 countries in the world, in the same boat. The virus does not recognize any distinctions. Therefore, we too must obliterate all divisions and distinctions amongst us and try as a region, as a continent, as citizens of the world to accelerate our progress towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals. Coming to the more focused discussion on India, which is one of the largest and fastest growing emerging market economies of the world. So in India, evaluation-backed policy making has been at the heart of decision making by the Government of India. We have a solid monitoring and evaluation dashboard, which has attempted to set quantifiable and measurable indicators with well-defined, realistic targets for all schemes under central government purview. Ministries regularly, like with quarterly frequency, update their achievements on this dashboard against the targets which are set. We also have an SDG India index, wherein states and union territories are ranked overall and separately ranked indicator-wise against each SDG. So the SDG dashboard here monitors the progress of each state and union territory, and granular detailed indicators are watched very closely by our policymakers to assess performance, reallocate funds, and to better align the overall focus of the scheme under consideration towards the 7 national priorities. These are aligned along the same lines as the 17 Sustainable Development Goals by the Government of India and spearheaded by Niti Aayog, the think tank, policy think tank of the Government of India. If we are to pick one SDG for today's discussion, SDG number 6, clean water and sanitation. So India improved its score. In 2018, we had the score of 63. And in 2019, we have the score of 88 on SDG number 6. And with this, we crossed for this particular indicator to the zone of front runner. And we all know that SDG framework has 4 steps: achievers, front runners, performers, and aspirants. Almost all states and union territories too have crossed over to front runner score. Some are very close to even becoming achievers. Some of the quantifiable measurable indicators for this particular SDG which are set are percentage of rural households with access to water, access to toilets, percentage of urban households with individual toilets, proportion of schools with separate toilets for girls. So here different SDGs are also intertwining. The percentage of districts which are open defecation free, percentage of industries complying with wastewater management laws, and so on and so forth. We owe this national achievement along this SDG in large part to the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. So Abhiyan in Hindi stands for campaign, and Swachh Bharat is a proud Sanskrit Hindi phrase for Clean India. So the Clean India movement or Clean India campaign became a massive public movement in India. Soon after it was launched on the eve of the birth anniversary of the father of our nation, Mahatma Gandhi, on 2nd October 2014. So attaching this sentiment in the masses of taking pride in cleanliness has worked wonders for our country. The beauty of this campaign lies in the fact that it is a sort of excellent nudge initiative where the carrot and the stick in the carrot stick model are both played by the citizens, by the people of the country, with children, with youth leading the campaign at the forefront, and people of all ages from all walks of life cleaning the streets, the beaches, the roads, parks, you name it. And this is as a matter of personal responsibility and pride. This campaign and the SDG number 6, clean water and sanitation, has especially been important in today's situation of COVID-19, when mass awareness is needed to keep clean and hygienic personal spaces and surroundings. And this awareness among people and citizens does not come overnight. So we've been very fortunate that our Honorable Prime Minister had the foresight to initiate this campaign, this Abhiyan way back when. And another area where we've been able to chart an ambitious vision and be on the path to achieving it has been affordable and clean energy, SDG number 7. There are many other SDGs on which we have performed very well and many in which we still have some way to go. But with regular monitoring and evaluation, it ensures that we are at least on the correct path. And the dashboards always have an autocorrect feature of directing us at least in that correct path. So a document I'd like to recommend those in the audience curious about the India story is India's recent VNR 2020, the Voluntary National Review. It's titled Decade for Action, taking SDGs from global to local. And Asela also very rightly pointed out in his presentation the importance of voluntary national reviews. So this is India's second voluntary national review and the report on the progress made towards fulfilling the 2030 agenda. The last point I'd like to make today is that we in India are in the middle of a digital revolution, and we hope to leverage this completely to achieve our national targets, to achieve the SDG targets by leveraging the JAM Trinity, JAM. So where J stands for Jan Dhan Yojana, this is a drastic shift to direct benefit transfers and massive opening of bank accounts, linking of bank accounts with beneficiaries. And A stands for Aadhaar, which is our national unique identification, and M stands for mobile connectivity, which brings it all together and ensures access, very, very important access to the public masses. So thank you again.
Thank you very much, Surabhi. Now I invite Fiona Cram to discuss on role of VOPEs in enhancing the quality and contributions of evaluations in decision making under COVID time. Fiona, please.
Kia ora. Thank you, Rashmi. My apologies if it's a bit noisy here. And I just want to repeat the thanks to everyone for the invitation to be on this panel. My greetings from Aotearoa, New Zealand, from our land to your lands. I just want to start with talking a little bit around the role of VOPEs here with respect to Indigenous people's rights and well-being. We started off about 30 years ago with, I think, about 3 or 4 Maori evaluators, so Indigenous evaluators. And since that time, the number of Indigenous evaluators has grown quite considerably, along with government recognition and commitment to what we call kaupapa Māori evaluation. So it's really evaluation that's done a Māori way. The Māori way is to try and privilege the Indigenous knowledge of Māori as well as looking at more structural barriers to and facilitators of Māori wellness. And that's been quite important over the past 30 years, because we've had a number of Māori provider organisations working in communities, and a number of government agencies working in Māori communities who have been subjected to that sort of evaluation, and with a great commitment to improving the delivery of services for Māori. Because you'll know, as in other colonised northern countries, there are great disparities between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples across a number of justice, education, health, other indicators. The result of all this is that led to the formation of a Māori evaluation association, Mā Te Rai. So I really want to pick up Asela's point about partnership, because this is a partnership between a Māori VOPE and the Aotearoa New Zealand Evaluation Association, which has been quite important in really just advocating for Māori rights. And I think that's where VOPEs fall in terms of that advocacy for the rights of Indigenous peoples. They can be the rights that are enshrined in the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. They can be the rights enshrined in your own treaties. They can be the rights enshrined in your own ways of being if you're not formally colonised countries. Now, the second point I want to raise is about the COVID pandemic. Now, we've had a lot of talk here about getting back to normal when the COVID is gone. And that's quite stunning for us, because of those disparities, that normal wasn't really a good thing. So we're looking to refresh the indicators and the outcomes of what is a new normal, so they align more with Indigenous people's aspirations for well-being. The other thing that's happened with us during the COVID is there wasn't really a partnership between Māori and the government in terms of the decision making about actions taken during our COVID lockdown, our first COVID lockdown, or even to the point of the disaggregation of statistics by ethnicity. So I think VOPEs can actually, with Indigenous peoples, can just say nothing about Indigenous peoples without Indigenous peoples. We know as evaluators that that's really important, that people need to be involved and partnered with if initiatives are going to succeed. VOPEs can also talk about how change happens, so that decision makers start to understand change mechanisms within Indigenous communities. And the biggest thing that we find here is that Indigenous communities change because they have relationships with one another, and the strength of those relationships are built. So people don't change because they're individuals, they change because they become reconnected and part of their community. So it'd be great for VOPEs to start talking about issues around validity and credibility and all the things we know so well about evaluation, but actually start thinking about what it means for Indigenous people to be Indigenous and to succeed as Indigenous peoples. I think the final point I'd make is that VOPEs need to be decolonising organisations and not yet another colonising force in the lives of Indigenous peoples. We'd be wrong to think that colonisation has ceased. We'd be wrong to think that there aren't nation states, development agencies and funders out there that their main rationale for funding programs for Indigenous people is to make Indigenous people more like Western people. And I think VOPEs need to be a force that those funders, those developers and those governments need to reckon with, so that evaluation can continue to bring Indigenous people in from the margins, where their worldviews, knowledges and ways of being are seen as valid. So that's all I've got to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fiona. Before I invite our next panelist, I will request all the participants to send their questions in the chat box, please. So now I invite our next panelist, is Oyuna, and I would like to ask you to say a few key points on the role of evaluations in accelerating progress towards SDGs. Oyuna, please.
Thank you so much, Rashmi, and good morning, colleagues. It's my pleasure to be here along with our fellow panelists in today's session. So I'd like to start with a reference to the United Nations 2020 Asia Pacific report on the SDG progress, which was launched earlier this year. And the report highlighted where we're making progress as a region or where we are not making a progress in the region, and also highlighted that we cannot expect to achieve all the SDGs by 2030 without accelerated actions. And it was launched before pre-COVID era, right? So now with the COVID pandemic, we are likely to see regress in many, if not on some, if not in many of the SDGs. And it's very important to also keep in mind that the pandemic is also increasing inequalities, social inequalities we had before, even before the COVID pandemic. And I would like to just highlight on two SDGs where United Nations Population Fund mostly works on. It's the SDG 5 on gender equality and SDG 3 on well-being. So in terms of gender equality, what we're seeing during the COVID pandemic is increasing inequalities. And we're seeing that women are disproportionately affected by job loss. And they are increasingly burdened by unpaid care work. And the priority is allocated to other areas than sexual and reproductive health services, for example. And we are seeing that gender-based violence is increasing during the COVID pandemic because women are at home with some of, they're very close now to the abusers. They do not have access to services. They cannot seek support because of the lockdown. So we're seeing that tendency. And as well as we're seeing the increased child marriage. And we all know that child marriage increases during any emergency or after emergencies where the families are going through economic burden. So we're increasing that trend here as well. And in terms of sexual and reproductive health, we're seeing that women are not accessing as they used to health services for safe deliveries, for family planning, and for other sexual reproductive health services, which of course will have burden on increased risk of maternal mortality, maternal morbidity, unwanted pregnancies, HIV and STI. So we are seeing these trends, and we're seeing that there's a very high likelihood that progress we achieved so far on those two SDGs are likely to regress because of the COVID pandemic. So in terms of evaluations, UNFPA is promoting relevant, reliable, credible evaluations, even during the COVID pandemic, because it's so important to have the evidence that assesses how the programs or policies or systems are adapting to COVID pandemic, and what is the likelihood that these are affecting positive or negative ways on a woman's health or our target populations as well. And it's also important that, as Asela mentioned in his presentation, to have a very increased focus on the leaving no one behind agenda because of inequalities that we are seeing as exacerbated during the COVID situation. Where it's important that our evaluations integrate fully gender equality, human rights issues, equities, which not often paid as much attention to during the evaluations. And this is my key point, that we need to pay more attention to leaving no one behind agenda, as we know that without addressing inequalities, without addressing vulnerabilities of specific population groups, we are not likely to achieve SDGs. It's one of the founding principles of achieving SDGs. So I'll leave my note there. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Oyuna. I will again request all the participants to send their questions, and I will correct myself this time to the question answer box. So now let us hear the parliamentarians' view on in what ways can legislators push for evaluation of public policies and programs and ensure utilization of evidence in decision making. For this, I invite Honorable Thilakarajah ji from Sri Lanka. Mr. Thilakarajah, over to you.
I'm sorry. Yeah, good morning to you all in the panel, and thank you very much, Rashmi, for the introduction. Good afternoon and good evening all over the world who have joined in this virtual conference. That first of all, I must thank Asela Kalugampitiya, our President Sleva and APEA, to including our forum, Sri Lankan Parliamentarian Forum for evaluation, also in this virtual conference. That as a policymaker's view, that I would like to mention here that how we have formulated inside the parliament with the concept evaluation to institutionalize the evaluation inside the parliament and to the country even. So that as a parliamentarian, that we had some support from the Global Parliamentarian Forum, which formed by the parliamentarians from the South Asian region, especially Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, and Nepal. One of the mentor, Kabir Rashmi, Honorable then Minister, now Member of Parliament, who was involved in forming of this Global Parliamentarian Forum. So with the guidance of Honorable Kabir Hazim, we inaugurate the Sri Lankan Parliamentarian Forum for Evaluation in 2016. We worked as the volunteer parliamentarian who are interested in the concept of evaluation. Then we work hard as a volunteer organization to formulate a formal organization inside the parliament. We were able to get approval from the government to set up a national policy on evaluation. We were able to launch that policy in 2018. And also that we had a global conference for the Global Parliamentarian Forum for Evaluation called Colombo. It was held in 2018. There were a lot of contribution and the participation all over the world, around 200 participants, more than 75 countries. So it was very boost us on our task. Then we were able to join hands with our President, then the Prime Minister, then Honorable Speaker, and that our Deputy Speaker, Honorable Anand Kumar Zedi, was the chair on that time. So it was a very great achievement for us to rebuild the organization. And after that, Colombo, that we got some recognition from the international and national and local level stakeholders on this concept of evaluation. Then we proposed, our committee or our forum proposed to have a select committee inside the parliament to formulate the bill, as well as the committee of standing committee inside the parliament. Honorable Speaker approved. This is the very first in globally, very first committee inside the parliament regarding the evaluation. Then Parliament Select Committee worked hard for last 3 years, and it has formulated as the formal committee. And now the Parliament Select Committee has finalized the report in 2020 February. The new parliamentarian to bound implement the committee report, which has been submitted to the Parliament. I hope that after the COVID-19, the committee has new challenges too. Anyhow, that policy makers all over the world, especially in Sri Lanka, are in front to institutionalize evaluation process inside the parliament. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Thilakarajah. So before I open the floor for open discussion and question and answer session, I think that I should give some time to each panelist to add whatever they have heard from each other, and if they like to add something. So I will reshuffle the order of the speakers this time and invite Auna first to give her observation. Auna, please.
Thank you so much, Rashmi. Yes, I would like to say that we really welcome the progress that the APEA made in terms of having the regional action plan to strengthen evaluation in the region. It's very welcome, and we really see that professionalization, capacity strengthening, ensuring policies are there to have a good quality evaluations, and its use, it's so important, especially during the COVID pandemic. So really welcome, and we would like to support the initiative as well. Thank you.
Now I invite Fiona to say a few words.
Thank you, Rashmi. I'm really excited by what I've been hearing. You know, I think we all hold this COVID pandemic as this time when many families, many women are suffering hardship. And it's almost a time for evaluation to step up and to really showcase how evidence-formed change can happen to support the well-being of women, of children, and of families in countries that are struggling at this time, and where we know that the rights of women will slip back. So I'm really heartened by what I've heard.
Thank you, Fiona. Now I invite Surabhi to say a few words, what she has observed during this discussion.
Yes, thank you, Rashmi. So I have really been, I've learned so much, and I've been blown away with Asela's amazing presentation, which gave a bird's eye view of the need for VNRs, a need for regional cooperation, promoting YEEs, leaving no one behind. And then coming to Fiona's point about being very careful and conscious of the risk of colonization, even now, of institutions. Then Oyuna's relevant point about the need for accelerated action if we are to attempt to even meet the targets which are set out for SDGs, which may, further be derailed owing to the COVID-19 pandemic, especially the gender equality, the need to consciously focus on women empowerment, women rights protection, and finally, Mr. Thilakarajah's important policy makers' view, especially institutionalizing evaluation at Parliament, the highest level of decision making. So I've learned a lot today, and thank you to all the participants, and thank you to all the panelists from me, because I learned so much.
Thank you, Surabhi. Now I invite Mr. Thilakarajah ji to add whatever he has said so far, or he has heard about the other perspectives from other panelists. Mr. Thilakarajah.
Yeah, thank you, Rashmi, again. Yeah, I noticed that actually that Asela always mentoring us to lead in the evaluation, to institutionalizing or to get international stakeholders partnership and all. That one my point of view that we had MDG, then we improved into SDG, that all we know. So that why we should improve that to MDG to SDGs, very big question that we had long discussion in past. But now it's a crucial moment that the COVID-19, post-COVID-19 period, that I think with all this presentation by our panel and with the concept that we are talking on, that whether we are in a position to reschedule or rethink on the SDG event, but is the we all faced, as Surabhi said, that the new challenge to all the country, that there is no distinguish under this virus pandemic. So that again and again that we are getting involved to face the challenges, how we are going to have the sustainable development to reach the goals. So it's open to all, not only restricted to evaluation, but the SDG stakeholders all should take part to overcome this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Thilakarajah. I will give some chance to Asela also. He had been patient all through this time. So Asela, you would like to add something after hearing from all the panelists. Asela, please.
Thank you, Rashmi. And I thank all the panelists for bringing all these important perspectives. As Rashmi mentioned, this is the multi-stakeholder panel. We have a government representation, development partner representation, parliament, and also VOPEs and other networks like EvalIndigenous. Actually, there are different perspectives, and it seems that different stakeholders are doing their best to realize the development aspirations, and also to achieve SDGs, sustainable development. And I'm thinking, what is missing here? Because now the voluntary organizations for professional evaluation, VOPEs, are also working and advocating for evaluation, and also advocating to achieve SDGs and how to accelerate SDGs within next decade. We have only 10 years, already 5 years gone. How to accelerate that? So there must be something missing here, right? So that's what we have to see. What is missing, and how do we see that how to overcome those challenges and make evaluation more visible, and practicing and in place to achieve the development agenda. And the other thing is, in this region, Asia Pacific region, when it comes to so-called developed countries and developing countries, it's not that many developed countries, if you like that classification. And all the time in my country, that it says that during my grandfather's time, it says that Sri Lanka is a developing country, and my father's time, it says Sri Lanka is a developing country, and my time, it says, I'm saying, it's a developing country, and I have to tell my son and daughter that, it's a developing country. So when are we going to be a developed country, right? So that's the question we have. So how do we achieve development, and what is missing? And that we have to discuss and do our best to, achieve development. Thank you.
Thank you, Asela, very much. And I think now we have about 25 to 27 minutes for question answer session. And now I will open the floor for the discussion on the questions. And again, the participants are requested to write their questions in the question and answer box. I take a few questions now, and panelists may like to speak for about 1 or 2 minutes to answer each question. So first of all, I would like to ask Asela, because some people have shown interest in joining the Asia Pacific Evaluation Association. So can you tell something that how they can join this association?
Thank you, Rashmi. Actually, Asia Pacific Evaluation Association is, of course, member organization, but not individuals. It's, VOPEs and other organizations can become members. Mainly national VOPEs are members of Asia Pacific Evaluation Association. And there are some, other interested organizations are members. We call them, like associate members, but VOPEs are the main members. But if any individual is interested in becoming a member, I think the opportunity is the National Evaluation Association, and or there are other individual member driven organizations, evaluation associations. But at the same time, we welcome all the national VOPEs or any other VOPEs and partners to become members of Asia Pacific Evaluation Association, because we want to have a strong partnership. We want to have a strong movement to promote evaluation in the region. Of course, now we see that in the past there were some challenges, but in future, in coming years, we want to have a strong movement in the region to promote evaluation with all the stakeholders, all the members, all the partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Asela, and I hope you will like to provide the link for APEA, those who want to take a membership. The next question is directed to Surabhi, and the question is, how are local governments involved in SDG monitoring system? So I think Surabhi will answer this.
Thank you. I think Ms. Geeta Gopal for that question. Thank you very much. Very, very relevant question. Because at the heart of policy making, I feel that it is the people. So very relevant question. So to answer your question, the local development planning, it received a big push from the 14th Finance Commission in India, as more than 50% of financial devolution was now meant for local governments. And capitalizing on this new fiscal decentralization measure, the Government of India in 2015 and 16 began a new initiative of preparation of a village level holistic planning at the Gram Panchayat, which is the village council level, for pooling of resources, for implementing schemes. And this was called the GPDP, Gram Panchayat Development Plan, at the village council level, the most granular possible level of policy implementation for the people. This GPDP planning process aims to be comprehensive, participatory, involving full convergence with all the schemes related to central ministries, pertaining to 29 subjects which are enlisted in the 11th schedule of the Constitution of India. The panchayats have a very significant role to play. Panchayats are the village council. They have a very significant role to play in efficient implementation of schemes, as we know. So, both subjects of national and state importance to transform rural India. And additionally, Gram Swaraj Abhiyan, which was launched in 2018 by the Government of India, covers 65,000 villages. It's a nationwide campaign to try to mobilize people, key stakeholders, to intensify the local planning process and to saturate the relatively worse off villages in key government schemes across important sectors. So as for the direct involvement of local government, the SDG dashboard also in India takes data from districts and trickles down further to the most granular possible level of these panchayats, which are the village councils. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Surabhi. There is another very important question, and I think any panelist may like to answer this, that how the evaluation findings cascaded down from senior government officials to the project staff et al. And another related is that how to deal with interest of politicians and other stakeholders. I think it is in connection with the implementation of evaluation findings. So I request the panelists to answer this, and who would like to answer this question? Any panelists?
I think yeah, it's my response.
Yeah, Mr. Thilakarajah, very nice.
Yeah, thank you. That's very good question that we are in practice, how the policymakers get involving in the, that evaluation process. Once it gets into parliament or talking point among the politicians, all they are asking about, not all, most of them are asking about what is the benefit on this. So, why every time that we give voice to people, we do something to you. So once we're talking about the evaluation and all they are expecting, what can I do for my people by having this forum or talking point on evaluation and all. So that we have to advocate what is evaluation is. It is that first of all that we must say that it is an anti-corruption tool. So people don't understand this is the tool for anti-corruption. And also this is a very proper plan to develop, to get developments in the proper way, in the right way. So that we have to advocate those things. So even though in our experience, even though we had 225 in the parliament, not all 225 parliamentarians get involved in this, but at least we a group of people around 20, and in that even around 10, in that even 5 at least, we get involved to develop all these activities. We again and again that we rush to do all those things within our tenure, that how possible that we can get involved in that. In that case, we are proud to be a Sri Lankan Parliamentarian Forum for evaluation, we succeeded to bring the policy to the country, and also we formulate a formal committee inside the parliament, the select committee. The select committee bound to have the formal committee inside the parliament as a standing committee or any other formation of committee according to the standing committee rules and regulations what we have in Sri Lankan parliament. And the bill is ready with the support of the stakeholders and academic, especially Asela and all of the stakeholders and the civil society members, all the government officials, all other institutions related to that, all they have supported to draft the bill. So we got support from the international community, even especially from South Africa, Nepal, from the constitution, any other countries, Philippines, they had policy on evaluation, and Kyrgyzstan, they passed the bill. So kind of experience also we share. So when you think the politician in the negative manner, we have to think about the positive people who are involving in the evaluation that could be a success tour in future on field of evaluation. I think so. I think I hope I answered it.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Thilakarajah. Yeah. Another very important and interesting question. I think Fiona can talk about it because she has discussed about the indigenous community and local people. So the question is from Ronald and asking that how is local knowledge, wisdom integrated into SDGs processes, systems and policies? Do local communities and grassroots level communities often targeted by INGOs for the advancement of SDGs understand the language and notion of SDGs? If yes, if you can give some evidence, and if you cannot give any evidence, then why not you cannot do that? And are they aware of their current progress status towards SDG targets or goals? A very good questions. So Fiona?
I might not be able to speak directly to SDGs, but local knowledge, I think, you know, one of our roles as evaluators is to find methods that let people speak about their lives and what's actually going on for them, what their needs are, what their priorities are, and what their aspirations are. And I think what we are doing locally is exploring more and more methods that take away our own assumptions from how people are living their lives and how they want to live their lives. And I think that that's valuable so that they can tell a qualitative or quantitative story. They don't need necessarily to understand evaluation or SDGs, because as evaluators, we are really important interpreters of that. We hold a great responsibility to represent people well and to represent Indigenous people well. And I think in my my little short talk, I said, you know, we're also representing what the structural barriers are to them living the lives that they want to. And I think that's where the SDGs come from, where the parliamentarians come in. How do we remove barriers for Indigenous people to flourish? And so I think that there's a pathway of knowledge that happens, that we try to hold things well on our part and make sure that we are able to influence decision makers. But at the same time, we've got to acknowledge that the people in our communities are important decision makers as well, and they can be important advocates for themselves. So we also look to shore up their capabilities to advocate for their own lives and their own aspirations.
Thank you, Fiona. Another question is from Krishna, and it is pointed out that due to this COVID-19, evaluation should assess leadership and good governance in disaster preparedness and response. Could the parliament forums and VOPEs work jointly towards undertaking such evaluations, and how do they do it? So I think Asela would like to answer, or any other panelist may answer this question. Should I ask first from Asela?
Yes, I can answer that. At the same time, I would say that Thilakarajah can also add later. Actually, yes, parliamentarians forums doing evaluations. I have a concrete example. Parliamentarians forum involved in evaluation capacity building in Sri Lanka. Actually, as Honorable Thilakarajah mentioned, when Sri Lanka Parliamentarians Forum for Evaluation was formed, parliamentarians thought that it is needed to improve the capacity at the district level. In Sri Lanka, we have each district there is a government agent. We have 25 districts, and there's a planning unit in each district, and there's a planning director as well. So the parliamentarian from that particular district organize a training through the planning director, actually the district secretariat. So we covered, several districts through the parliamentarians, because, parliamentarians forum members organized this. So what is important was that parliamentarians took the leadership in organizing this, and they partnered with the district administration. And this is for the district development committee members, because in Sri Lanka we have district development committees, district coordinating committees. We call them, DCCs, and parliamentarians are also part of this. And this is where parliamentarians and district and decide district and review the progress, and also decide financial allocations at the district level. So this is a very important forum, this DCCs, and knowledge was given to the DCC members, and representing from different parts of the different agencies and ministries and departments. So this is a very good example that how parliamentarians took lead in promoting evaluation capacity development. But I don't believe that, personally, I must say, that parliamentarians become, evaluators. That is not the expectation that we promote, but we promote parliamentarians to use evaluation, especially in their debates, when taking decisions at the parliament and when allocating funding, because parliamentarians are the ones, raise hand to approve the national budget in many countries. So definitely they should use evaluative evidence. But at the same time, we had some discussion at the parliament also, evaluating the parliament. Honorable Thilakarajah can mention that as well. That was a discussion. We had, as we mentioned, there was this institutionalization of evaluation process in the Parliament of Sri Lanka. But I know one parliament doing evaluations, that is Uganda Parliament. They have an evaluation unit within the Uganda Parliament, and they conduct evaluations and submit evaluation reports. They conduct evaluations of all the government, selected government initiatives, and submit the report to the cabinet. So that is happening. But in Sri Lanka, we did not expect, Parliament to conduct evaluations or parliamentarians forum to conduct evaluations. But the main aim was that parliamentarians forum advocate for evaluation, which they did for the national evaluation policy, because our first draft was prepared in 2003. Until recent past, it was not passed. But once the parliamentarians forum was formed, they started advocating for the evaluation policy. Within like 1 year, 2 years time, it was endorsed by the government because of the pressure from the parliamentarians forum. And then they started developing the national evaluation bill, and it is now official document within the parliament. It is not passed, but as the Parliament Select Committee is official, it is in the Select Committee report. It is an official document in the Parliament. So there was a lot of progress in this regard. Thank you.
Thank you, Asela. And Mr. Thilakarajah may like to add something on this issue.
Yeah, thank you, Rashmi, and thank you, Asela. I fully agree with what Asela has mentioned in this answer, and also I just try to add something. As he mentioned, it's very important point that the parliamentarians, we are not supplier of evaluation, but we are demanding for evaluation. That's so to take decision making. So in that case, he was mentioning about the assess the leadership. The Krishna's question, I mentioned that I would like to answer. And the assessing the leadership under this evaluation and all, it's with the attitude. What is the attitude that every leader and every politician have to have their own assessment to improve himself or themselves. So that is depend on that. But what we can do is that we can create the environment to do that. So especially once you take about the local level implementation that we had, as Asela mentioned, I was taking part in that district level training to the government officials. I was chairing 2-3 DCC, divisional coordinating committee, as well as the assistant chair of the district committee. But in the ground, what it will be, you must think vice versa. When you go to ground, the officials, they will think about, once we're talking about evaluation or anything, whether it is from the top. So from the top, how they expect that should be included into the policy, or else there must be a act on that, or there must be a regulation, or there must be a gazette. So those are the documents they expect, whether I must bound to obey that or not.
I think there is some connectivity issue with Mr. Thilakarajah. He has made his point and it is very clear. So I think I will take another question now. There is a question from Jordan from Bhutan, and she has written that how Indian Evaluation Association is, what is the role of this association in monitoring the SDGs, in monitoring and evaluation of SDGs. So there are many members from Evaluation Committee of India like Surabhi, Asela, if they want to say something, or otherwise I have to make some. Surabhi, you would like to say something, or Asela?
I think
Surabhi?
you would be best suited, Rashmi, to take that question.
I would just say a couple of things, that we keep continuous dialogues with the policy planners as well as implementers, and we organize a number of activities. We have a regular newsletter that gives what is happening in the country and what should be done. And we organize capacity building programs for government officials, the other people and the community people, and also organizes seminars and conferences from time to time, where we invite the government people and parliamentarians and all the stakeholders. And our best part is that we are developing partnerships with various stakeholders, so that we keep a continuous dialogue with them for monitoring and evaluation of SDGs. So at this point, I will say only this much. And now I will go to the other question. It is not directed to anybody, but for all the panelists, so anybody can take it up. That from your experience, do you think there is a shared understanding of the purpose of evaluation and the concepts of 17 SDGs between the evaluators and the recipient economies, implementing agencies at grassroots level? I mean, what is the linkage between the evaluators and grassroots level people? Have you detected any gaps in this regard? And finally, what is your recommendation in order to ensure that there is a clear understanding of these concepts at both the level and various other levels like institutional capacities of the implementing agencies and so on? So who should take this question? And I will give a chance to Auna first, because Auna, you would like to speak on this issue?
Sure, I can start and other panelists can add from their perspective. So in terms of my organization, UNFPA, in evaluations, we don't see discrepancy of understanding of SDGs and the programs that is being evaluated, how it's linked to SDGs. Because whatever we do in UNFPA, it's linked to SDGs, and all the program documents and everything shows that linkage. So I don't see there is a gap in understanding between the agency that is commissioning the evaluation and the evaluators. I think when it comes to how to have that integrated methodologically, maybe another issue. So for example, that's why I was touching a bit on the LNOB, leaving no behind agenda. When it comes to methodology, how to assess that, that's another issue where, we see differences. Some evaluators are very capable, some may not, understand it fully, but I don't think it's it's a methodological issue from my perspective to say. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Auna. Anybody else would like to add what Auna has said in this?
Can I just add, I worry about clear understandings. If we're clear, whose understanding are we clear about? Surely it's really interesting that we have dialogue and debate, because that's the source of innovation and agility, rather than being stuck in just one overarching understanding.
Thank you, Fiona. I mean, now time is short and it may not be possible to take all the questions. I will just pick up a couple of more questions. There is a question which is, I feel, is very important, that this COVID-19 pandemic has pushed strategic planners from all sectors back to the drawing board. Under the new normal, do you see the SDG with their targets and indicators being reviewed? I also had the same question, that due to the fund transferring of dealing in COVID-19, some SDGs might have got the back seat. So how the evaluators, what is the role of evaluators, and how we are going to deal with this situation? So who would like to answer? I request the panelists to respond to this. Surabhi, you would like to say something on this?
Yes. So a very, very good question, and a related question by, I think, Miss Ranjita Mishra. She asks that post-COVID-19, the GDP has decreased by 24%. She's taking the example of India, but I think it's applicable world over. And this is going to, she says, further increase the inequality. And it's exactly as the question that you mentioned. And she's asking what steps the government is taking to achieve inclusiveness by 2030. And very related to the question that you just pointed out, that some SDGs might take a back seat and some might get more focus. And the divide, the inequalities may further deepen. So I'll just take quickly the example of India, and I'll try to answer this question as best as possible. So this COVID-19 pandemic, first of all, thank you both of the question participants who asked this question, both of you. Sorry. So the principles of equality and justice, they are embedded in the case of India, in the Constitution of India. And since initial days of India becoming an independent nation state, they've taken bold steps to ensure gender equality, social equality, etc. For instance, India adopted the universal equal suffrage in 1947, well before many other world nations. Just a brief background. Coming to the COVID-19 pandemic, which has taken the world by storm. And economic packages are rolling out world over, including in India. They're already put in motion now with focus set directed towards small medium business owners, women-led businesses, marginal community grants to ensure like last mile reach. So we have in India something called the Pradhan Mantri Garib Kalyan Package, PMGKP. The PMGKP is a 1.7 lakh crore rupees package announced by our Honorable Finance Minister way back in March 26th of this year. It's to protect the weaker and most vulnerable sections of society from the impact of coronavirus-induced lockdown. We in India underwent a prolonged period of lockdown. And a lot of businesses suffered, a lot of marginal community was severely impacted. And under this package, the government announced free food grains, cash payments to women, poor senior citizens, farmers. And for swift implementation, it's important to also continuously monitor by center and state governments. And for swift implementation, an important piece of this puzzle has been the Pradhan Mantri Jan Dhan Yojana, which I also mentioned when I was talking in my talking points. So this Jan Dhan Yojana has expanded the access of bank accounts, and with access to direct benefit transfers under various schemes, also credit and insurance services access to the people and other saving instruments. Over 380 million accounts have been opened so far, and 54%, we're proud to say, are owned by women. We encourage participation of women in opening of these Jan Dhan accounts. And there are about 10 million banks bank-linked SDGs, the self-help groups, which also form an important piece of this puzzle. And with as many as more than 87% being women SDGs, women-led, women-exclusive SDGs. So I hope that answers at least a part of the question about inequalities arising out of COVID.
Thank you, Surabhi. And I think I cannot give more time to other panelists. I'm sorry. And there are few questions left. They are very important, but I think since now the time is not there, so this can continue further with each panelist if the participants may like to ask this question.
Rashmi, just to mention,
yeah, I will give a few minutes to Asela before I wrap up. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to mention also there was a question about how to evaluate SDGs. I have posted a link about the guide on evaluating SDGs. So I think it will be helpful, and there were many questions and comments about that. That is eval partners and some other organizations got together and developed that guide. So that will give you shed light to how to evaluate SDGs. So I must say now this panel is very I also enjoyed it, and interesting panel, and very good questions from participants as well. And we all have this challenge ahead, how to make evaluation more important for achieving SDGs. And also I want to mention that VOPEs, when it comes to the letter V, voluntary, it's more challenging. That's why evaluation field is also face this all these challenges when it comes to voluntary. This is a voluntary these are voluntary organizations, so our task is also not easy. But at the same time, I invite all the VOPEs, national VOPEs in the region to partner with APEA and also other partners and stakeholders to get together with APEA and make efforts to achieve the regional evaluation action plan. I must also thank all the panelists for bringing their important perspectives and inputs. Surabhi, Oyuna, Fiona, and Honorable Thilakarajah, and also Rashmi for the excellent moderation. And also I must thank for AEW organizers for giving this opportunity for APEA to have this important panel. And also the participants, there are so many participants joined from all over the world. And also they are very interesting and important questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Asela, for sharing the resources. Surabhi also has shared some links, and I think this will be very helpful. This is going to be the end of the session, but this is not the end of dialogue and communication. And I hope you all enjoyed the discussions and the communication discussion and whatever points came up. And very interesting point came up from Asela that it was evaluation of parliament. That is a new concept, and I think everybody should take it further. We have noticed that to achieve SDGs in COVID situation, it is extremely necessary to have strong partnerships and share resources, knowledge products, and lessons learned. Collective actions are needed by various stakeholders, countries, and organizations. So I think we will take further steps in this connection. I would like to thank all the panelists for very important contribution to the deliberations today. My gratitude is to you all who have actively participated in this session and raised various important questions and issues. And I would like to put on record my thanks to the whole team of organizers to provide us this opportunity and extending all the technical support. Before I finish this, I would like to request all the participants, attendees to accomplish the survey after the webinar. Please do that. And thank you once again to you all for joining this panel, which I found very interesting, and I hope you also found it very interesting. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Have a good time.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.